What's up, guys? I'm Lucas and welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. So today is going to be a really fun and exciting day because we're going to be getting some of my favorite fish for the Epiphyte only aquarium. But before we do that, let me give you a little bit of an update. So welcome to episode 4 of the Epiphyte only aquarium in-depth tutorial. If you want to see how I got to this point and how I set this whole thing up, there's a whole playlist for that. So make sure that you check that out and then come back and watch this video. So before I go to the store and bring back the Corys here, I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about how the tank is doing. Obviously, I'm sure on camera you can tell too, it is quite dark in here, but I really like that about this. It's like nice and shaded and it gives a lot of depth to the overall scape, which looks really nice. The plants are doing super well. All of the Java ferns are keeping their color. They're all a little bit kind of dirty at the moment and there is quite a bit of plant debris that's collecting on the substrate. But that's totally fine. Once we get the Corys in here, they're really gonna start turning up the sand quite a bit, and they're gonna even out the whole thing and just make it look sort of more uniform, and they'll mix all of this debris into the substrate, which is just gonna increase the amount of nutrients in the substrate overall. Not that we necessarily need that, because nothing is planted into the substrate, but the Corys will make it look just overall a little bit nicer. And the Rasboras, you can see them right here in the center of the tank. They are doing really, really well. And the water parameters overall have been super stable. I've been testing every day. I've done a couple of water changes since the last video, but I haven't really needed to. I've just been doing that as just overall precaution, just to make sure that nothing spikes or anything like that if I am not paying attention or I don't water test one of the days. But as I was saying, the Rasboras, they're doing awesome. I think that they really love all of these dark spaces down below because they're constantly kind of in the center of the tank here or down below the plants in different areas. And I actually, yesterday, I saw them breeding, which is really cool if you haven't seen that in Rasboras before. Basically what they do is they'll kind of turn upside down and try to go underneath a leaf and then lay their eggs there. So that was really cool to see. I haven't seen this group breed before, so that's a really great sign that this tank is, really stable and they're really happy and feel safe in here. And there are no natural predators for them in here, obviously. So if babies do happen, if they do hatch and start to survive, then they'll thrive in here. The only predators that the babies would have are the Rasboras themselves. And I'm not sure if this species will eat its own young. That's pretty possible. That's kind of how most fish are, aside from a few different species. So they are their only predators to their babies. And when we add Corys, it'd be awesome if they started breeding, and then the only predators will be the Rasboras. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You may also notice that the floating plants are going absolutely crazy. And I did in the last video, I added some more, but even since then, I think they've about doubled. And you can see all of the roots are really collecting a lot of plant debris and stuff released by the wood, on them biofilm and that kind of thing. So it's really cool, honestly. And if we do have baby fish, these areas just have so much biofilm on them that they're gonna be a great food source for any little guys that we have. But also just a perfect place for them to hide. So I think it's pretty likely that if we do have baby Rasboras, that we'll just sort of see them in the tank eventually, coming out from these places. But they're doing super well. The red root floaters have even kept their red color, which I'm happy about. And that kind of brings me to the lighting. So you may notice that I did raise these up a little bit. I actually found that having them a little bit higher gave just a lot more light to the whole tank in general. And I think it looks a little bit less claustrophobic. And I think they would be kind of an interesting framework to maybe put some pothos on, because I think there is this third dimension of the tank that we're not quite utilizing yet. And it could also be interesting to have like a peace lily coming out here, or maybe on the other side, maybe right here, something like that. So let me know in the comments what you think, if I should add some more riparian plants in this area. But the biggest change to this tank is that you can see we have a new filter here. Great thing about having media in a bag like this, like we discussed in a previous video, is that it makes it really easy to change out filters when you have to. And unfortunately, in this case, I had to. I spoke briefly before about the filter issue in the last video and having to switch the filter that was on this tank before we added the fish to another tank. And that was an Awaze hang on the back style. And unfortunately, I just cannot recommend those Awaze hang on the back filters. I've had 2 of them fail me now. So I decided to try out this Hygger model. Let me get the exact information. This is an HG149M. So I'm gonna try this one out and hopefully it does well. There was one problem with it. And I read about this online a little bit to try to fix the problem, but basically at this point right here, the intake is 2 pieces. And so in the place where they connect, it was pulling in a lot of air, and I could see a ton of bubbling in the back of the filter, and it was just making a lot of noise. And so to fix that, essentially what I did is I just glued it on the connection here. I just used a bunch of super glue gel, and that almost immediately solved the problem. And so now it's nice and quiet, and it's giving a ton of great flow across the surface here. I have it all the way down right now because this is the model that's for 20 to 40 gallons. It's all the way down, but it's giving a great amount of surface agitation, and it's pushing the water, just perfectly along the surface here. You can see there's just a bit of movement in the plants, and Corys will like a good amount of flow, but the Rasboras will not. So I think this is going to be like a perfect medium, and the Rasboras don't seem too bothered by it. It hasn't greatly changed their behavior or anything. So overall, I am happy with this filter. I just wish that I didn't have to make that little adjustment and it was perfect out of the box. And I'll have to see, over the next couple months how it does. But thus far, I am happy with it, mostly because of the amount of flow. And it doesn't seem to just push the water straight down. It's pushing it out across, so I don't have to make any modifications to the outflow here. And yeah, I wish I could recommend it straight out of the box, but if you do end up getting this one and you have that problem with the air bubbles, just glue this part and it'll be fine. Okay, so that is the update on the tank. And I'm really happy with it so far. I think it looks awesome. I think I'm gonna go to the store and get the Corys, but there is one other thing that I've been thinking about, and that's the possibility of a centerpiece fish. So it would be a little awkward to add one just because if I want breeding from the Rasboras and the Corys, adding a bigger fish is probably not gonna be ideal. But from just a tank enjoyment perspective, it could be really fun to have like a bigger guy in here, swimming around in the center, and it could be interesting. It'll definitely affect the behavior of the Rasboras if I decide to do so. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you have any ideas about like an interesting centerpiece fish that would really fit this aquarium, make sure you leave it in the comments, and then we can kind of all decide together whether we think it's a good idea. So yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys think. But without further ado, I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna pick out some awesome Corys. I'm probably gonna go with a group of 6 in here, just a perfect little family group size. And then I'll be back and we can add them into the tank. And yeah, when I do that, I'll show you my process for how I add fish to a tank when I get them at the store. I talked about it kind of briefly in the last episode, and now I'll show you how I actually do it. So I'm gonna go to the store. I'll see you guys in a second. Okay guys, so I am back from the fish shop and I've just got our Corys floating in this bag in the top. So they're starting to temperature acclimate just by being in the water, but I'm going to start acclimating them to the water itself. And you'll notice that I've turned the lights off here. That's just to reduce stress to the fish that we're adding. having them being acclimated under a bright light can increase the stress level for them. And the Corys that we got are pretty sensitive. When I was at the fish shop, the guy was telling me to acclimate these guys very slowly because they are a little bit more of a sensitive species. And you'll see what they are once we get into the bag here. But they are a group of 6 Panda Corys. And it always takes me a little bit to get into these bags. But the guy was telling me that they had only been in the shop for about a day. So I want to make sure to acclimate them super slowly because these guys have traveled quite a bit in the last few days. Go. And then I like to just open this up and just fold it over like this. And then they'll stay put just like that while we acclimate. And to acclimate them, I like to just take a little cup measure like this, but anything will do, really. And just take a little bit of the water. Just add a little bit to the bag. I normally would do a little bit more than that. But for these guys, I'm going to take it really slow. I'm probably going to add a little bit every 5 minutes for the next hour or so, and then we can add them into the tank. And I doubt that you could tell in the bag because it's so dark right here, but the guy at the shop did add a little bit of stress guard into the bag just to be extra sure that these Corys were going to be okay. So I'm going to keep an eye on them. They're all kind of piled into the corner at the moment. I just want to be super gentle with these guys and make sure that they have a nice and easy acclimation process. So I'll do this for the next hour, and then I'll check back with you guys once it's done and we can add them in. Okay guys, so it has been about an hour, and I think these Corys are ready to be added to the tank. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I've got a little bowl set up over here, and I'm going to take this bag over there and pour the Corys into it. But before I do that, I just want to say that it's important to not add the water that they've been in into your aquarium, unless you really, really trust your fish shop. There could be some nasties in the water at the aquarium store, and they have a lot of turnover of fish, and none of these fish look sick or anything like that, but it's just better to be safe than sorry. After you acclimate them, add them directly into the tank without adding any of that water. And also in this case, there is some like medication in the water, and they've also been in this bag for about an hour, probably pooping and adding nasties into the water here. So let me show you the way that I do this. Okay, so you can see that I've got this bowl set up over here and I've got this net. And usually I would do this in a bucket, but I want to do it in kind of like a clear bowl so that you guys can see. So I'm just going to position the net kind of just on the bowl like this. So you can see the setup right here. So now I'm going to grab the bag. So I've got the bag with all of our beautiful little Panda Corys. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to invert the bag. And then I'm just going to slowly release through the net so that they all get caught into the net, just like that. And now I'm going to take them over to the aquarium. Okay, so our Panda Corys are in here, which is super exciting, but I'm going to leave the light off for probably another hour or so, and then we can come back and check on them and see how they're doing. I just don't want to add any additional stress by blasting a light on them right away. So we'll let them settle in, and then we'll come back and check on them. Okay guys, so it's actually the next morning. And I know that that release kind of happened pretty quickly. I didn't want to really take the time to move the camera and everything with the Corys in the net like that before releasing them. So sorry I didn't show you guys the release, but I was kind of just prioritizing the well-being of the Corys. I was a little bit afraid that they were, a little bit more of a sensitive species. So I wanted to be just really sure that I was treating them well when adding them into the tank. But I did check on them last night. I kept an eye on the tank, And I turned the lights back on and kind of watched them, and they were kind of, milling around the front, all 6 of them. And then I waited until the lights went off on the timer and then tossed in a little bit of a pellet food for them. And they all got a little feeding in the dark, which was perfect. Really good to see them having a good feeding response. And I also did add a little bit of beneficial bacteria to the tank last night. So this is what I added, CCAM stability. This is just generally what I use. It's really easy to get my hands on in my area. All the local stores stock it. And it's been a good, reliable product for me. So I'm gonna add some more to the tank today. In fact, I'll just do it right now. And it's generally a good idea to just dose beneficial bacteria every day for the first 7 days after adding new fish, just to be super sure, that everything is stable in your tank. And we've taken the time with this tank to really establish that cycle. We've used the pre-cycled media. We've slowly built up the amount of beneficial bacteria, so everything should be fine. And I did water test the tank just first thing in the morning, and I showed that in the previous video, so I'm not going to show it in this one. But essentially, the ammonia, the nitrite, and the nitrate were all perfect. We had maybe 5 ppm of nitrate, so that's a good sign that our cycle is stable and working. So everything is perfect. The only thing is that I'm not seeing all of the Corys right now. But if one of them had passed away, there's a high chance that we'd be getting an ammonia reading on that water test. And I've seen a few of them this morning kind of milling around, but they're all kind of, I think, hiding in the back of the tank, which is honestly a good sign that they're finding their places back in there where they feel nice and safe, and they have that space to go to chill out and slowly get used to their surroundings. They are a sensitive species, so it's probably going to take them some time to really get used to this tank. But I think I want to do a little bit of feeding now because it's that time in the day. And maybe the Corys will come out a little bit once there's some food in the water. So let's do a little bit of feeding and then see if we can get a closer look at them. So for the Rasboras, I've just been going with this micro pellet. So I'll add a little bit of that in. The Corys will definitely go for whatever leftovers the Rasboras drop. And I like to do a little tap on the glass to just get them to associate that with food. And I'm putting it kind of into the flow. That should kind of collect here. Start dropping down. Oh yeah, they're going for it. The Rasboras are getting much more used to feeding at this point. They were pretty skittish at the beginning, but now they're used to it. They're used to me feeding like this. And it's nice to see the whole group right there in the center. Oh, and I see a couple pandas coming out. So I don't want to get too close to the tank and scare them away. But you can see there are a couple just in the corner of the tank there. They sense the food in the water. I'm just going to add a little bit more for the Rasboras, but also for the pandas. This will be great for them to forage on. Oh, they are so cute. I don't want to get too close to the camera right now, but they are just the most adorable little fish. I wonder if a couple more will come out. So I'm just seeing 3 of them so far, and I'm really trying not to spook them. But I think I'm going to add in a little pellet for them. Just one, one of these sinking wafers. And this is just kind of the bog standard food that I find at all the stores. So if you're in the US, you're probably going to see something like this at your local shop. But I'll toss in a pellet. See if they go for it. They certainly loved it last night. So maybe it'll coax a couple more of them out. Looks like we've got 2 brave Corys in the center who are pretty interested in that pellet. And I think the rest of them are actually in the far corner right now, hiding behind this further rock over here, because a lot of the food that I added for the Rasboras kind of got pushed by the flow, and I think a lot of it collected in that back corner. So I think they're all foraging back there right now. which is kind of perfect, honestly. That's a nice little safe spot where they can be out of sight and get the food that they need. But we've got these brave guys up here. We'll see if they go for the pellet. If they don't go for the pellet in the next hour or so, I'll probably remove it from the tank. Don't want to add any extra pollutants to the water at this point. Well, we've got the new fish in, adding the bacteria, and oh, I got distracted because they're going for it now. At least they were. We'll keep an eye on it. But it's a good idea to remove any uneaten food, especially pellets and stuff like that. The little bit of like micro pellet is going to be totally fine. The Corys will graze on that. But we just want to be a little bit careful about disturbing the cycle too much at this point. We want to make sure everything is going to be super stable. So make sure you stay really on top of your water parameters at this point and make sure you're dosing beneficial bacteria every day. And just pay close attention to the tank. And if you add a fish like this, kind of more skittish, it's going to want to hide like a bottom feeder. Don't be alarmed if you don't see them that much for the first week or so. They're going to want to hide. They're going to be getting used to the aquarium. So don't go crazy and tear apart your tank looking for all of your fish. Just pay attention to your water parameters. They'll kind of let you know if you're having any trouble with the fish. Honestly, if you get like a big ammonia spike, there's probably a dead fish somewhere in your aquarium and you can take a look then. But don't go too crazy. Just let the fish be. You know, they'll show themselves as they're comfortable. When you see them, just take a close look at them to see if you notice any abnormalities, any like white spots or anything like that, or any fuzz on the fin. Those are two like common things that you'll see when fish are first introduced to an aquarium. And in that case, you may need to medicate. And if that happens in this case, then we'll do another episode on how to medicate fish. Hopefully we don't need to do that. And there's plenty of good resources on YouTube if you do need to do that for your fish. And that's the reason having a quarantine tank is pretty important. And I do actually have a quarantine tank set up now, but I decided not to quarantine these fish first because I know that most of you are not going to have a quarantine tank. So I just want to show you the best ways to introduce fish without using a quarantine. So that's why we made sure not to add any of the water or anything like that, just to minimize any pollutants we could be adding to the water. But I love these pandas. They are so cute. They're the smallest Corys that I've had before. I have sturbides and pepper Corys in another tank. So this is the third species of Cory that I have, and they are some of my favorite fish. They are just kind of little, just spastastic little guys. It's really interesting because Corys sift sand through their gills. So that's part of the reason we did this tank, you know, with Corys in mind and having only sand, is it's kind of like just a playground for them. That's going to be really healthy and beneficial for them. And with all of the shade and the hiding places, I do think that we've created like a really good environment for this group of Corys. And this little group of 6, they're all juveniles, so they are going to grow a little bit more, and it's going to be hard to sex them for a little while yet, especially when they're hiding and that kind of thing. But it would be really exciting to get some breeding, and we'll have to, let's see if that happens, essentially. But I'm really excited about these guys. My wife thinks that they're absolutely adorable, and I agree with her. So it's going to be really fun to have this in the studio and be able to come sit in front of it and watch these little guys do their thing. It is comforting to see, you know, all of the Corys are alive and well and are starting to acclimate to the tank really, really nicely. This aquarium has been so much fun to build, and I've really enjoyed sharing the step-by-step process, like a really in-depth tutorial with you guys. And I don't think it's over yet. I think the last episode, I'm probably going to do a compilation of everything, and then at the very end, we can share how the aquarium is doing, at the very end of everything. And then we can see the full process in one long video. But for that video, I want you guys to let me know if you think we should add a centerpiece fish. As I said before, leave it down in the comments if you think we should add a centerpiece fish, and give me some ideas. And if you guys want, I can put like a poll up in my posts once we get like some good ideas, and then we can decide together if we should add the fish. And then we could do like a reveal at the ends of that compilation. And in addition to that, let me know if you think I should add some plants to the upper section of the aquarium, maybe a peace lily or some pothos wrapped around the lights, something like that, to increase the dimension of the tank, because it does feel a little bit like a pond. So I think having some plants coming out of the top could be really cool. But I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on all of that. So let me know in the comments what you guys think I should do. But if you guys want to be a part of or see that final vision of the tank, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. It goes a long way in supporting me, and I appreciate you guys so much for subscribing. And make sure you like the video if you liked it. I had so much fun doing this series that I think I want to do another one just like this. I really enjoy making the videos where it's a 30 days later kind of thing, but I also really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. So I have some ideas for what the next in-depth tutorial will be, but you guys can look forward to that one. I think it's going to be in more of a cube aquarium format. That's kind of as far as I've gotten so far, but there will be more of this to come. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you guys are as well. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode 4. It's so exciting to get the Panda Corys in here. I'm going to sit back and watch the aquarium for a little bit and just enjoy it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next one.